Okay, this is going to be another very interesting video. This time I'm going to do something that hasn't been done before. I've put out a video before, but I've never explained the bare bones facts. What we're going to talk about is why it seems that certain martial arts groups attack other martial arts groups, and why ninjutsu is so political. Now, the problem with ninjutsu is quite simply lack of lineage. And you have to understand this has been brought out extensively under Anthony Cummings and the historical ninjutsu research team, including the historical members of the historical ninjutsu research group on Facebook, during all of our little discussions and such on the material. What it essentially comes down to is this: ninjutsu is not a martial art. For years, it's been portrayed as a martial art. We've been told it's a martial art. It's some secret combat art of ancient Japanese guerrillas or spies or assassins or whatever. In fact, what we ended up finding out is that ninjutsu is not a martial art. You had to learn martial arts before you could learn ninjutsu. Since that being said, you know, and most of the methodology, framework, and foundation for ninjutsu actually lies in China with Sun Tzu's Art of War, the mention of the 5 types of spies and the use of spies. In fact, in one of the historical documents, which has been translated into English by Anthony, what we come across is the fact that the writer of that particular document actually traced ninjutsu back to the Chinese dynasty, to the continent of China, to the actual forming of spies and stuff over there. This plays an interesting role when you're looking at the earliest mention of the ninja, but not in a historical context, in a loosely historical, quasi-mythological context when you're getting to Prince Shotoku. This was during the Ashoka period. And Prince Shotoku had established Japan as separate from China. Before that time, Japan was viewed almost as a colony of China. And what had happened was, in so doing, there was a battle between the factions in Japan, and a particular individual by the name of Saijin Otomo, who was in fact, his family was tasked with being soldiers, with being the military arm of Prince Shotoku's government, had been awarded the title of shinobi. Now, the term shinobi, which is the more traditional term for what we modern nowadays call ninja, has been used extensively especially in the terminology of shinobi no mano, to describe the stealers and the spies, the espionage agents of feudal Japan. But basically what it comes down to, and I've expressed this theory to Anthony, that my personal thoughts are that the term shinobi became used because of this quasi-legend surrounding Otomo Saijin and Prince Shotoku. Now, that being said, what I'm going to get into is why there's been so many attacks on members like myself, Ashita Kim, Frank Dukes, Krista Jacobson, even Anthony Cummings for doing the historical research. And apparently the historical research has really irritated a lot of people. So I'm going to do something here. I'm not doing this with Anthony's permission. In fact, he doesn't know anything about this video. He'll see it when everyone else sees it. The whole idea of this is to deal with the problem surrounding ninjutsu, the problem of the politics, the disinformation, all of that. Okay, to begin with, I'm going to state this: no practicer, no teacher of ninjutsu anywhere in the world that I am aware of, or that anyone else is aware of, has ever proven, and this includes Seiko Fujita. Actually, Fujita Seiko, if you want to use it in the Japanese way instead of, you know, the Romanized Western way of speaking. No one has any ninjutsu, and this is really important for people to understand, because this is where I'm going to get into all the indiscrepancies in the Bujinkan system. And you have to understand, the Bujinkan isn't a particular style of martial arts. If anything, they are a mega conglomerate, a franchise. They literally are the McDojo of the world. quite simply put, we're all aware of Shihan Van Donk having the home study course, where you can train all the way up to black belt and then go to a Bujinkan school to test for black belt. And if you look on the website, they actually go beyond black belt. But when you get to your 5th degree black belt, you have to go to Japan to train with Hatsumi to be tested for your Godan. And passing that test, you come back to the States. And then you are now a licensed instructor of a 5th Dan, and they can go all the way up to a 15th Dan, which completely blows my mind, but okay. And so what you have is a system, essentially, of black belt by belt. They even have a video course you can buy that tells you how to run a school, run a business, and everything else after you get your 5th Dan. So it's kind of a quasi-elemental thing here, and anyone between the rank of Shodan and up to your Godan can, of course, open a satellite school under a local instructor who is a Godan. So, you know, that person who is a Godan who actually has a school can go to these satellite schools to test the students who are attending these satellite schools to make sure they're up to par or whatever. But, I mean, it's essentially, yeah, for lack of better, it's mail-order black belt, just call it what it is. Now, I'm going to get into this really briefly. I actually have notes here. One of the things that needs to be addressed is that there's an issue following Toda Shinruken. The grandfather, uncle, there's been multiple stories to this as to who he is in Takamatsu's life, who trained Takamatsu. The problem is there's no proof that Toda Shinruken ever existed. The other issue to this is that the name's been changed, that in both the 1st and 2nd edition of the Bugi Ryuhu Daijiten, the big encyclopedia of martial arts, of Koru martial arts, traditional martial arts, that in the 1st and 2nd edition, Takamatsu had placed Shinruken's death 4 years before Takamatsu was born. This, of course, changed during the 3rd edition. Then there's issues with having fictional characters in the lineage, which would be Japan's equivalent of Robin Hood and King Arthur. So I'm pretty sure there's a fencing school out there with secret druidic magic from Merlin and Robin Hood archery and King Arthur sword fighting. So yeah. Anyway, so the whole issue with Toda Shinruken pretty much destroys the lineage of 6 schools. The fact that this guy was a bone setter or some sort of doctor or whatever, and he owned a business, that would imply tax records. And there's one thing about governments, it doesn't matter which government it is, they are very meticulous about their taxes. This destroys the lineage, or puts into question the lineage, because until Toda Shinruken can be found, and there's lineage proving this, then there's whatever issues you want. It comes into this. It removes the schools of Gyoko Ryu, Shinden Fudo Ryu, Tagakuri Ryu, Koto Ryu, Gokushin Ryu, and Komagakuri Ryu. Now, it destroys all the Nimpo lineage, all the Ninjutsu lineage, which is probably why there's the whole transition from the Bujinkan moving from Nimpo Taijutsu to Budo Taijutsu. Now, the other interesting fact to this is this only leaves 3 schools. Giken Ryu, which claims a connection to the Kukishin Ryu, Kukishinden Ryu, which is a modern extension under Takamatsu of the Kukishin Ryu, which is a Koru system under the Kuki family. The problem with that is the Kuki family have no knowledge of Giken Ryu, so there's an issue here with whether or not that school even exists, whether or not the Kuki family even cares to deal with the issue, and what it creates is an even more, it puts this one into suspect. This school might be real, might not be real. It's kind of something that needs to be looked into. Now, what we do know for a fact is that the Kage Yoshin Ryu, which is a Jiu-Jitsu style, is legitimate. We know that Kukishinden Ryu is legitimate as it evolves from Kukishin Ryu. So those 2 schools cannot be questioned. However, the entire ninjutsu lineage and everything else comes into play when you get into the fact that Takamatsu wanted to teach Kukishin Nimpo, and the Kuki family denied it. The Amatsu Tatara, for example, while credited to being transcribed by an ancestor of the Kuki family, they have scrolls which have lists of the scrolls kept in their family shrine, and no mention of the Amatsu Tatara existed before Takamatsu. So they actually link it to Takamatsu itself. But being a Shinto religion, there's a lot of belief in the spirits, and as such, when you get into the whole idea of spirits, you know, an ancestor spirit could have came to Takamatsu and revealed this, so they kind of accept it. Now, the problem with the Amatsu Tatara is that the lineage of the Amatsu Tatara claims that it came from a Chaldean king, which is a Babylonian Mesopotamian king, what we knew as the first civilization back during Takamatsu's time. Recent findings have actually moved it from that to somewhere in North Africa. But what we end up finding here is that according to Takamatsu, a Chaldean king came to Japan with a bunch of information, all the information from the first civilization, which essentially comes down to, for lack of, well, everything doing with martial arts, medicine, engineering, all these things. I apologize for the shakiness of the camera. I'm doing this over my cell phone. So what we have here is an entire issue that the Amatsu Tatara is, I mean, really a Chaldean king who would have put everything written in Sanskrit on clay tablets, traveled halfway across the planet to award these clay tablets to a Japanese king at the end of the world. Actually, a Japanese tribal chieftain at the end of the world. And this was a time when Japan was pretty much colonized by Caucasians. So, yeah, there's an issue in that. Now, I'm very much aware that a great deal of people within the Bujinkan point to Shinden Fudo Ryu as a legitimate school which can be proven to exist. Now, here's the important thing to remember. According to the Bujinkan, Shinden Fudo Ryu is a Ju-Taijutsu and a Daken Taijutsu style, which means it is a striking style and a grappling style. There's two martial arts intertwined there, but there's a few other weapons and such added. Now, here's where our problem begins. First of all, there is a Shinden Fudo Ryu Jiu-Jitsu. Shinden Fudo Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, as taught by Terajima Kunichiro, to E.W. Barton Wright, who founded the British-European self-defense style, fighting style, boxing style of Bartonitsu, is a legitimate system, but their lineage names no one within the Bujinkan's lineage. So there are two different styles there. Even though there is a Shinden Fudo Ryu a Shinden Fudo Ryu style of jiu-jitsu, and even though this was a style of jiu-jitsu which was connected to Jigaro Kano and Judo, which is connected to Barton Jitsu, and Barton Jitsu also trained in, Mr. Barton Wright actually trained in Judo with Jigaro Kano's school as well. What we come into here is that there are two separate martial arts. The Shinden Fudo Ryu Jiu-Jitsu system is in no way connected to the Bujinkan's lineage. And what this does is a lot of the Bujinkan members will point to Shinden Fudo Ryu saying, oh, well, then, you know, how could Todosh and Rukin not know this if this style exists and this is a proven style? But the proven style under the same name is in no way connected to the Bujinkan lineage. So all these claims of the Bujinkan lineage, the check my notes again because I just had a brain fart. The Shinden Fudo Ryu style being connected to the Bujinkan, that being taught to Jigaro Kano by Takamatsu and all this other stuff is basically a lie. So we have to ask ourselves, why exactly would they go through all the idea of putting out so much disinformation? And what it comes down to is this mega conglomerate. this franchise of martial arts schools which have ninja secrets and teach a ninja secret hand-to-hand combat system. Now, that being said, we all know that no style of ninjutsu is legitimate. None of them can be legitimately proven. I'm saying this as a practicer of ninjutsu that my style cannot be proven to have historical legitimacy or anything in that context. What I can do is this. I can say that I trained in a style which included martial arts and ninjutsu. That I have modernized it and adapted it and made it my own. I've added elements of other martial arts to the martial arts of this system to make it more effective for me based on my knowledge, my experiences, and have adapted that training in and of itself to make, to get myself, to make my own art my own. That being said, there's a lot of question areas about my association with Ashita Kim, Frank Dukes, and so let me add something to this. Ashita Kim is the only ninjutsu instructor that I have ever seen in the 80s that was teaching espionage, spying, survival training. This was all the elements of ninjutsu that we know historically from the translated scrolls coming from Anthony Cummings. So there's an issue here where, how is it the fake ninjas are teaching something that's, or the presumably fake ninjas, because in reality we're all presumably fake ninjas, but how is it the people that are being attacked as presumably fake ninjas are teaching stuff that are more akin to actual ninjutsu, actual spying? And then we get into Frank Dukes, and see, the thing about Frank Dukes is whether or not you believe his ninja lineage, his ninjutsu lineage, doesn't matter. Whether or not you think Bloodsport's all a bunch of BS doesn't matter. In fact, it's Hollywood, so I'm pretty sure there's a lot of BS involved. But, and having actually met Frank Dukes, I know there's differences in the actual story and then the story put out in the movie. But that being said, let me point this out. Frank Dukes was proven as an operative for the CIA with no training from the CIA, but apparently using his ninjutsu training, and was acting as a private contractor tasked out for the CIA. This was brought up during the Iran-Contra hearings, and Frank Dukes had actually testified during the Iran-Contra hearings. So it wasn't just some major coming in and some retired colonel from the Army coming in. I apologize for the truck if you hear it. It's not any of that. It's actually that he went and was a spy. He did spy work, but he didn't receive any training that anyone's aware of from the CIA. So all this is coming from his ninjutsu training. So why wouldn't I want to associate with this man? That shows that some of his ninjutsu involves more than just punching and kicking, which we've been told for years ninjutsu is a martial art, and are only now discovering it to be something legitimate and real. Especially related to, espionage and spycraft.